Hello, welcome back to the podcast. I want to talk with you about just the idea of taking time away from our children, especially as we are looking at our children who might have some type of different need or a disability, how it can often feel like a major struggle to actually leave them with someone else, or sometimes it can actually be a struggle to find someone who is able to care for them. And I just want to talk about the importance of finding time for ourselves, and even if that means we have to get creative, but just prioritizing time away from our home, from our children who we love dearly, but just taking care of ourselves as well so that we can show up best for our kids. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast. This podcast is for moms who are parenting differently abled children. Maybe you desire to switch to a more natural lifestyle to improve your family's health, but you have no idea where to start. You're longing for more routines and time, but every time you try to implement those tips that you've spent hours researching, you realize that they don't work for your family dynamics. Hi, I'm Ashley. In this podcast, we will focus on implementing routines, switching to a more natural lifestyle, and uprooting those old mindsets that are keeping you stuck, so that you can plant yourself firmly in the truth that Jesus offers you. Our focus will be on creating small, customizable changes that will build upon one another over time to create real impact in your life. If you want to hear from a mama who has been raising several children with special needs and who knows how important it is to do this in a way that's sustainable and that doesn't add to your overwhelm, then this is the podcast for you. Pop in those earbuds, reheat that coffee for the third time, and let's go. So I just want to ask the question, is time away from our kids needed whenever we have a child who has a disability and who may require extra care from us? And I would say the answer is yes. This can be very hard to do, but it can help so much with burnout and with overwhelm. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be complicated. Even if we're in our home, but we are not responsible for caring for our child, if that is all our situation allows, I feel like that is still a break. Obviously, if it's possible for you to get out, you have someone that you would trust and who is capable of caring for your children, then that is even better. But if that is not possible for you, then just getting creative with it. Taking a hot bath. I make bath bombs and I love them. And so I love using a bath bomb and taking a hot bath if it's just not possible, if with our schedule and stuff, for me to leave, but I know I need time to myself, then that is just a quick way that I will just get a little bit of downtime, or, my husband will take care of the kids and I'll go back to our bedroom and work on some stuff or something like that. You can just get creative. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be something that requires you to even leave the house. But I think we have to prioritize caring for ourselves. And the reason why, obviously, as parents, we all have to prioritize caring for ourselves. But whenever you're adding in the aspect of maybe you have a child who struggles to communicate with you, maybe they are having behavioral challenges, maybe you're having to just care for them physically, there are all these other layers of things that can add up that can just really feel a bit overwhelming to us. And it just complicates our day. And so I think it makes it even more important for us to actually take time for ourselves. And this could even be, like I've said before, just getting out and getting, a 10-minute walk outside, something like that. But it's interesting because we likely need a break more than a person who is parenting a child that is typically developing, and yet we are actually the least likely to get it. And that breaks my heart. And this is not a competition thing. I'm not trying to belittle anyone who is only parenting different or typically developing children. It's not a competition. I'm just being honest about the fact that this is reality. A lot of times it can be very difficult to find someone who is either willing or who we trust to care for our children, especially like if you have a child who does require, maybe they have some kind of health issues that you don't know if a health emergency could come up, or maybe they require physical care, or they can't speak. There are just these different things that make it often hard because maybe your family they just don't feel comfortable, they don't feel equipped, they don't know what to do. There can be that aspect of it, or it could be the other side that we don't feel comfortable trusting other people for various reasons. So it's just unfortunate that we tend to really, really need a break. And a lot of times we don't get it. And, you have to find ways to get creative in order to just invest in yourself, because for one, it's worth it. You're worth investing in, first and foremost. You're worth caring for. But secondly, if we're not caring for ourselves, it is very hard to care for our children. This is something I have actually witnessed, or not witnessed, but experienced firsthand. And I really burnt myself out. I had children back to back. I had health issues, then they started having some struggles, and I really wasn't caring for myself that great. And I was just really focusing on helping my children. And I got to the point where I really was not in a good place health-wise. And it was so interesting because I went to our natural doctor, who I had been taking my children to, but I wouldn't take myself. And I finally prioritized. I told my husband, which he was like, yes, you, like he's always telling me, you need to care for yourself. And I was like, I've got to go see her for myself. I can't function, and I've got to do something. And it was so interesting because she would say to me, like, even when I would take my boys to her, she would ask about me. And I would say, yeah, I've got this going on and this and this. And she's like, okay, well, talking about my kids, but she's like, we need to make sure that you're well. And you have to be well in order to care for them. And I remember it striking me as just like, oh, yeah, I guess she's right. I guess I do have to care for myself. And I hadn't been doing it. I had not been caring for myself. I had mainly been focusing on them. And I'm so thankful for that gift of someone just gently saying to me, it's okay that you want to help your kids, but you can't really help them if you can't help yourself. And that's not exactly how she said it, but she was very kind about it. But that is the truth. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't really help anyone else. And so this is just my gentle reminder to you that if you can't take care of yourself, it's very hard to help anyone else. And we have to be honest with those around us about our needs. And that's the other thing, is we cannot expect people to read our minds. So maybe there are people who are willing to help you, but they don't even know you need help. You have to be honest and say, I'm really struggling and I need help. Could you help me? Could you come watch my kids for 30 minutes while I, take a bath? Or could you come sit with the kids for an hour while my husband and I go out to eat? Or whatever the thing is, whatever it is that you know is going to be the most life-giving to you, only you know that. And only you know what's going to work with your schedule. But we have to be honest about the fact that we do need help. And that is the reality, is whether we want to admit it or not. And that's kind of falling back into that supermom mentality that I'm not a big fan of, is because I feel like it sets us up to feel like it's all on us instead of being vulnerable and admitting we need help. We can't do this on our own. And I think that God desires, that's one of the beautiful things for me of parenting my children that have different needs, is the fact that it has just opened up my horizon and just my mindset to realize how much we do need one another and how important being vulnerable and having community is. So a lot of times we think it's wrong to do something for ourselves. And, we'll feel guilt. We will feel like, okay, we have to just focus on helping our children. And I just want to ask, how can you reframe what your thoughts are on this? So what is stopping you from caring for yourself? What is the thing that you're saying? So for instance, there's no one to help me with the kids, so I can't take care of myself. Or I don't have enough money to do X, Y, and Z, so I can't take care of myself. I can't take time for myself. What is that thing that you are telling yourself that is stopping you from finding some kind of creative way, some kind of new way to make sure that you are just caring for yourself, that you're making time for yourself? I would just challenge you to share. If you figure out what that thing is, please message me and share what it is. because we have to get very honest with ourselves. Most times, obviously, there are rare circumstances where it is impossible. I'm thinking of like possibly a single mother who has no one else around. It may be impossible for her to care for herself. But most of us, if we can just stop telling ourselves the sentence that is stopping us, and we can reframe it in our mind and say, okay, maybe there isn't anyone to care for my child, but I can find a different way to care for myself. I can find a different way to make time for myself. And then we get to work on figuring out what is that different way. Or maybe we say, okay, I thought there was no one to care for my child, but I actually have never asked anyone. I have never admitted that I needed help. So I just want to ask you, what is that thing for you? And once you figure out what it is, just challenge that. Ask yourself, is this actually true? And if it's not, then how can I change the way I'm saying, how can I change what I'm saying about this situation? And then what can I do in order to actually do the opposite? So instead of saying, oh, there's no way I can make time for myself, how can I actually find a way to make time for myself? A lot of times, really the fact is that we fail to see, or we minimize the benefit that we actually get from taking time for ourselves. So this could be things like we're more refreshed, we are feeling recharged, we start to be able to think more clearly, which means a lot of times we can problem solve better, which means maybe there's a challenging situation that you feel like is actually holding you back from caring for yourself. But if you would actually take the time to care for yourself, you would just feel so much more refreshed and have mental clarity to where you would actually come up with a solution for that problem, and you would begin to see breakthrough. We have to learn to value just caring for ourselves. We have to start to see how important it is, and that there actually are benefits, not only for us, but also for our entire family when we do care for ourselves. I think, especially as we're looking at being a married couple, this works both ways. And our spouse is the exact same. They also need to care for themselves. And that's the beautiful thing about working as a team, is that you can get vulnerable with not only those around you, but you and your spouse together can get vulnerable with each other and be honest with one another about what is it that you both need. So what is it that you feel you're missing in your life that you wish you had time to make as a priority for yourself? And then work together to make it happen for each other. Because when you're both able to find things to invest yourselves in outside of your home and outside of your family, again, we go back to the benefits that we see from that, of just that connecting with other people, connecting with a community. And we just show up better for our families whenever we're having our own needs met and whenever we're connecting with others. So I think it's so important to also sit with your spouse and just ask them to think about it, and then you think about it, and then you come together and you share with one another. Like this, if I had to pick one thing a week, this is the thing I want. Start with one thing. If any more than that feels overwhelming, or, one thing every 2 weeks, whatever the thing is, based off of your schedule. But if I had to pick one thing that I desperately wish I could do for myself, or that I need for myself, this is the one thing. And then do your best to honor that one thing for each other and to try to make it happen when it's possible. Some ideas that I have done or that I find helpful for just as a mom, for kind of refreshing myself, getting that recharge, would be, like I said earlier, a bath, like a hot bath, a coffee date with my friends, or going to a Bible study. Honestly, even getting groceries alone and going and grabbing a coffee while I'm out and getting groceries. That depends on your personality. If you hate grocery shopping and you only do a pickup, then this isn't going to work for you. But that's something that, even if the schedule's really tight and I can't do anything else, if I can at least get out by myself and get groceries and maybe get a coffee, which makes it feel a little more fun than just, running errands, I'll do that. It could even be like talking with friends on the phone, or, like I said, getting outside, going for a walk. There are just so many different ways that we can find to get our needs met. And I think it just really does start with the fact that we have to see the value in it. Then we have to be honest and communicate what we need. And then we have to be willing to be consistent in making sure that it happens instead of letting life get in the way, which falls back to we have to see the value of it. Because if we know the benefits, then we're, especially if you're like me, if I know that it also benefits other people and not just me, I'm a lot more likely to stick with it. And the reality is whenever I am not stressed out, burnt out, overwhelmed, I show up as a lot better wife and mom. And it's the same for my husband. So we just have to be honest with each other and just place the value on caring for ourselves while we are also caring for our children and doing an amazing job at doing that. So that is going to be all for today. And I would just love to hear from you. If there is something that you know is like your need or your main way of kind of getting out, getting away from the house, getting refreshed and recharged, even if it is at the house, whatever your thing is, I would love for you to share it with me. Maybe it'll give me some ideas of some new things I can try. So I will see you back next time. Hey, before you go, if you found value in today's episode or you learned something new, would you take a minute to share with someone else that you know would be blessed by it? I would also love it if you would leave me a review. This lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and I love hearing from you. You can connect with me further over on Facebook or Instagram. Until next time, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be constantly in prayer. Romans 12:12.